start clapping out right now. Give it up for E-Water! Where's my volume?
Hey, what's up, guys?
Hey.
Brand new jokes. They say Disneyland is the happiest place on earth, but that's just for little kids, right?
Hey!
Yeah, for grown men, I would say the happiest place is probably South Figueroa Street. Yeah, I love motorcycles, but I'd never ride one. Because the one thing I love better than road motorcycles is living. Yeah, I had a real bad hangover this past weekend. Oh man, I hate hangovers, It's like the worst part of drinking, literally, right? I'd say the only thing worse than having a hangover is listening to Dane Cook's special. Yeah, I almost always get morning boners and shit. Like a lot of people wake up in the middle of the night with cramps and shit. It's just not in their dicks. Yeah, when I first got out of the army, I used to walk around LA with a freaking Lotus 45 and shit. But then I never used it, right? So then I got rid of it. I could just walk around with like a pocket knife. But then I never used that either, So I would just use my wit and shit, whatever. Nowadays if I see somebody go crazy, I'd be like, hey you ever been to a Korean barbecue restaurant? Oh, I forgot to. That's whatever. Call back. I have to do these other jokes first. All right. Well, this is. You ever been to a Korean barbecue restaurant? Yeah, it's kind of unique in that you have to pay to cook your own meat, right? And that's whatever. And if you pay a little extra, you can wash the dishes and take out the trash. Yeah, one of my buddies, a white guy. He's like super duper white. Like, I think he's part albino or some shit. Yeah, he's so white when he comes to my house, all my plants start growing in his direction.
Hilarious.
Hey, when I'm having sex, like, I never last as long as I'd like to, I'm like, come on, penis, hang in there. And it's always like, screw this. Blah. Yeah, I used to go to water parks every summer, but then one summer I had a fairly traumatic experience happen, so I stopped going. And when I was 16, I was at Raging Waters, and I was waiting in line on these stairs. And then I look up, right, the girl next to me, she's about the same age as me, and her boobs are like right in my face, And it's kind of cold and windy, right, so her nipples are like kind of popping out. So I was like, oh crap, so I turn, but then this girl here, her face is like right in my junk, And like I already got a partial boner because of freaking, nipple girl here, right? But then crotch face girl here, she like yawns, So I was like, oh my God, And it was like full boner then and shit, like I almost poked her in the eye and shit. I was like, oh shit, I better get the fuck out of here. So I just fucking ran up the stairs, like, and I'm guessing this is a fairly common occurrence at Raging Waters because the lifeguard, he was like, come on, just go. So I got up out of there, down that slide, and I was like, damn, they really need to rename this place. And they should call it Raging Boners. Thanks. What do you call a guy that could make a business suit real fast? Taylor Swift. Yeah, normally when a guy brags about how big his junk is, it's usually the opposite, right? It's usually really small, Yeah, I was talking to this guy the other day, he was like, oh man, my dick's so big, I'm hung like a horse. Thank you. I'm like, yeah, like a seahorse. And I think Shaquille O'Neal's like the happiest man on earth, right? He's always so jolly and like everyone just loves him, right? And I think it's because he's never been bullied before. Yeah, like how are you gonna mess with someone who's so tall that his crotch is in your face? It's like, hey Shaquille, give me your fucking lunch money. Never mind. A thing going around the internet, like if you're a lady and you're alone in the woods, would you rather run into a bear or a strange man? And a lot of women are choosing the bear, right? But I think that's just ignorance of bear knowledge. Yeah, because I ran into a bear alone in the wood once. Yeah, and he fucked the shit out of me. Yeah, it's weird how language changes over time, Like nowadays, if a guy came up to me and told me he was gonna blow my brains out, I wouldn't know whether to run away or pull my pants down. Yeah, I've had sex with all different types of women, white, black, Asian, Hispanic. In my opinion, Asian women give the best blowjobs. Yeah. If any of you ladies like to prove me wrong, you can meet me in the bathroom after my set. I was watching this Bigfoot documentary the other day, and it struck me as how dedicated these Bigfoot hunters were. Yeah, they're so devoted to something that might not even be real. Like comedians in their careers. Yeah, there's a sailor, right? This old joke. Anyway, he gets hired on this boat, and they're out of sea for about 6 months. And so he's talking to his buddy. He's like, "Hey man, when are we gonna go back into port? You know, I'm getting kind of horny out here." And his friend's like, "Oh no, we're not gonna go back into port for like another 6 months." And he's like, "What? You know, I can't wait that long." It's like, "Well, have you tried the barrel?" He's like, "No, what's that?" So he shows him to this room, and there's a barrel in there, right, with a hole in it. He's like, "Well, there you go, right?" So he tries it out. He starts fucking the barrel, and it works really well, you know. And he's talking to his buddy. He's like, "Oh yeah, man, that barrel is freaking awesome, dude." He's like, "Man, I'm gonna use it every day." He's like, "Well, every day but Sunday, right?" It's like, "Oh, you can't use it on Sunday?" He's like, "Well, you can, but Sunday's your day in the barrel, so." Yeah, I was over at Mount Baldy this past weekend. It's really nice up there, you know. It's like a lot cooler than down here and shit. And I learned that it wasn't always called Mount Baldy. Yeah, back when the mountain was a lot younger and more hopeful, it was known as Mount Rogaine. Yeah, one of my buddies told me that scratching your head is what makes you go bald, you know? But I don't think so, because my balls are still hairy as hell. Why didn't the oyster share his food?
Why?
He's shellfish. Yeah, you know, one of my, whatever, I think Pride Month needs a mascot. And I got the perfect one, the flamingo. Yeah, they got pink feathers, you know, they love to dance. And they're like a non-predatory, peaceful type of bird. Yeah, they only eat like brine shrimp and like algae and stuff. And nobody cares about brine shrimp. And you know what a group of flamingos is called?
What?
They're not called a flock. No, they're called a flamboyance. Yeah, how gay is that, right? It's like all the best parts of Pride Month, all wrapped up in one animal and stuff. And even the name flamingo is flaming O, right? A flaming O? That's just a burning butthole. And what did the Australian chess player say to the waiter?
What?
Checkmate. I'll tell you guys a story. The day I left for the army, right? You know, my mom, she came home from work early that day, right? And she'd never done this before. But we went to lunch and stuff. And then I remember I was just so freaking nervous, like I couldn't eat anything and shit. So we get back home and I get all my stuff together and we're waiting for my recruiter to show up. And so we're waiting for a couple hours, you know? And so I'm starting to think, well, what if he doesn't show up, you know? I'm like, yeah, that'd be cool. But then right when that fucking clock strikes, the second he said he'd be there, like I hear these footsteps outside, you know? Like going up the stairs. And I can tell it's him, he's walking really slow and shit. And then I can hear him walking down the hall. He's up to the front door, right? And I can hear him knock, it's like, all slow, right? So I open the door and it's my recruiter, you know? And I'd seen him about 5 times before this, but I'd never seen him in his full uniform and shit. He's got like all these medals and shit. And I was like, holy crap, this guy's like a fucking war hero. Anyway, I grabbed my stuff and I turned to my mom. And you know, Asian people, we're not like the most affectionate people in the world, right? So my mom just kind of looks at me, he's like, bye son, you know? I'm like, oh, okay, bye. So I turn, I go with my recruiter, we go down the hall, we go down the stairs, we get into his car, and we back up. And just as we're about to pull out, my mom comes flying down the fucking stairs, you know? And tears are fucking pouring down her face and shit. She like runs to the car, she fucking jumps on the back of it and shit, right? And she's like, I love you, son, you know, don't die, right? Come back home and shit, you know? And so I was like, oh, okay, you know, yeah, mom, I love you, you know, come home, you know? And I give her a great big hug and shit. And we pull out, you know, and I look back, and she's like standing by the side of the road just bawling, you know, like, and I was like, oh man, that's crazy, you know? So I call her an hour later, right, because I'm all worried and shit. And she's all partying with all her friends. I'll tell you another story. Alright, one day when I saw real life cowboys, right? I don't know if you've ever seen real life cowboys, but yeah, they're pretty impressive, like, at least the ones I saw, right? Anyway, I was driving cross country and I was in Nebraska, and this is in the wintertime. And so I got off the freeway because I just wanted to see something, you know, because everything, you can't see shit in Nebraska. And but right when I did that, I was like, oh crap, this is a huge mistake, you know, because like right in front of me was like a wall of cows, right, like 50 of them, and they're like all clustered together, like there's no space. So I stopped my car, I'm like, holy crap, like what am I supposed to do now, you know, right? Like, should I back up or something? But then right then they started partying, you know, and I could see why. It's because these 2 guys on horses are riding up. And they're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, actually do this. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Anyway, so whatever. So the cows are partying, you know, I'm driving past, you know, they're doing that for me and shit, right? So I drive past these guys and I'm looking at them and I'm like, man, these guys are fucking pretty impressive and shit. Like they're both like maybe 6'3", like 230 pounds. You know, like the older ones maybe 35 and the younger ones 25 and shit. They both got like cowboy hats and jackets. They both got pistols and shit. Like I was in the army, right? So I seen some tough people and shit, but these motherfuckers are tough as shit, you know? I was looking at them like, God damn, man, these guys are fucking awesome, dude. And I was watching them shit, and I jerked off and went on away. I'll tell you another story. All right, one time I used to live in this bad neighborhood, right? And one time the cops, they had the whole neighborhood blocked off. So I was coming home, I had to like park down the street and walk up to my house. And so I'm walking up to my house, and all the neighbors were kind of out, just kind of milling about. And as I'm getting close, some dude like grabs me, right? And I'm like, what the fuck? And I look, and it's like, he's like a plainclothes detective guy and shit. And he's like, what are you doing here, And I'm like, I fucking live here and shit. And he's like talking shit and whatever. And I forgot what he says, but I just remember he's like fucking like basically insulting me in front of all my neighbors. So I get to my house, and I'm like, man, fuck that motherfucker. Yeah, I grab a beer, and I'm drinking, like I'm sitting on my porch, like drinking, just watching all these cops and shit. And after I'm done, I'm like, man, you fucking pigs, right? I throw it. And right when it shatters, they all like stiffen up and shit. And you can see the look on their face, like all the fucking, like the courage on their face is gone, right? They're just like, oh shit. And within 5 minutes, they were all out of there and shit. And I was like, yeah, man, get the fuck out of here, motherfucking my neighborhood. I didn't really say that, but anyway, it just shows that any problem can be solved with a bottle of beer. More jokes. Yeah, a couple months ago, North Korea sent over 200 balloons over to South Korea. Yeah, they were loaded with like garbage and excrement. But that statement's not exactly accurate. Because those balloons, they weren't filled with shitty trash. No, they were packed with Dane Cook's jokes. Yeah, like I said, I was in the United States Army, 1st Cavalry Division, Fort Hood. It was pretty cool, But it was weird being the only Asian person. Yeah, every day people were just looking at me like, are we supposed to shoot this guy? Yeah, it's cool, being in the Army. You get some good benefits. But I would say the best benefit was the ability to give old men hard-ons. Yeah, old men, they love hearing Army stories. I guess because it makes you feel younger, gives you hope for the future or something. But like if I meet an old man at a park and I start telling Army stories, he start coming all over me. Yeah, the whole little dick Asian myth thing actually worked to my advantage a couple months back. Yeah, this petite little French lady, she was like 5'2" or whatever. She like totally singled me out, I guess she was thinking like, hey, look at this Asian guy. He's probably got a lot of money with a small dick. Wrong. Yeah, I'm open my comedian, I don't have any money. And like, I got a normal sized dick, I know because I was in the Army, right? Yeah, I was like, yeah, I'm good. It's not the longest in the world, but it's a bit girthy, right? And so upon initial insertion, she was like, ah! Yeah, like right when she saw it, she was like, oh my God, your dick is huge, right? And I was like, it's not that big, but thanks. Like whatever. Oh, and then their whole girthy part, she was like, ah. Yeah, I encourage all you guys to date women that are at least 6 inches or more shorter than you, Yeah, it's freaking awesome, dude. When I saw my dick in her little hands, I was like, wow, maybe I do have a big dick. Yeah, when I was with her, I felt like a fucking porn star and shit. Like, man, I give myself a porn star name. I'm gonna be E1. Ooh. Yeah, there's only one Asian person in the NFL, and he's a kicker. Could you not find a more racist position for this guy? What, are you gonna make him go out barefoot in a karate uniform? Yeah, one of my buddies, he's Muslim, so he doesn't eat pork, but he's always trying to pork shame me and shit. He's always like, oh, gross, we eat bacon and sausage. I'm like, man, I'm Korean, right? We eat dog, right? Yeah, I was eating pizza the other day, but, eating pizza by yourself is kind of depressing, Yeah, it's like eating cake or getting drunk by yourself. Basically like my last birthday. And I was watching the Oscars past season. Towards the end, I was getting all excited and shit. I was like, hey, look, they're bringing back the Mummy. But then I saw it again, I was like, oh no, that's just Al Pacino. Yes, past the April 4th is now a new national holiday. It's now National Burrito Day. Yeah. And the very next day, April 5th, is now National Toilet Clogging Day. Yeah, one of my Jewish friends, her name's Jenna. Jenna, the Jewish princess, we call her. She's a staunch supporter of IDF, Netanyahu, all that, And, I get what Jenna's saying when she's talking about all her stuff, But then when I hear what the Palestinians are saying, I become torn, like, which side should I take, Should I take the side of the Palestinians? or should I choose genocide?
Yeah.
Alright, you know, comedians always tell you two things, right? They'll always tell you when they just got booked on a show, they'll always tell you when they just had sex. That's a bit juvenile, right? Like myself, I haven't been booked on a show in over a month. But I did get laid last week, so whoa! Alright, my name's Eduardo, and I'm out of here, thank you.
Keep it going for you, oh damn. Baby needs to burp.